When I ran into Reverend Kent a month or so ago, about a year ago, after beginning my current job, I noted that he had a particular gleam in his eye. As part of my work, I often guest preach in our region's congregations, and when we saw each other that time, he pounced very quickly, and he asked if I'd be willing to come while he was gone, and I said, of course. Not only do I love you, Reverend Kent, who I've known for many years, but I've never been to visit your congregation, and what an amazing place it is. So, of course, I'd be happy to come up during your sabbatical. Pick a Sunday, he said, and so I picked March 5th. That seemed both free and soon enough to plan for. Why not? And he said, great, that's the first Sunday of my sabbatical, so you'll be the first person that everyone gets to meet. And I said, wonderful. The first Sunday of sabbatical is often a kind of tender time, so I'd be happy to come in and see how everyone is doing and remind them that they're doing the right thing and that everything's going to be okay. And then a couple of months later, the election happened, and all over the land, Unitarian Universalists were getting more and more freaked out, let's just say, and justifiably so. And so in the back of my head, I would occasionally think, Megan, remember that when you go up to Germantown, not only are you the first preacher during sabbatical, and folks might be uncertain about this time ahead, but also that the whole world is pretty worried about all of our time ahead now. And so, you know, that's compounded, so be sure to account for that. Okay, no problem, I'm thinking to myself. 2 situations to think about, 2 situations planned for. So then, a few weeks ago, Reverend Kent gets in touch and says, hey, would you mind if we made your Sunday Stewardship Sunday, and you could talk a bit about why giving is important and get us off to a good launch? And I said, of course, no problem. I can do that. I've been talking to other congregations a lot because they are often worried about their finances and fretting over the future and figuring out how to run their pledge drives carefully. And so, in the back of my head, I said to myself, okay, the Unitarian Society of Germantown is seeing me on the first week of Reverend Kent's sabbatical, which is probably at least a bit of an anxious time, and the whole world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, if I may be blunt. So that is a cause for concern for sure, and okay, it's also Stewardship Sunday, and so I wonder if that's a source of tension or concern at all. And that is when the chair of your Worship Arts Committee got in touch with me to tell me that the theme of your month is fear. You don't have to preach on the theme, he said, to which I thought, oh, I'm preaching on fear. That seems rather predestined, if I may say so. So today I'm preaching on fear, for sure, for all the reasons I described. But I'm not preaching specifically on the fear of money trouble or the fear of loss or fear of a government gone haywire and cruel, although I know we're bringing all of those fears today to this space. Plus, I imagine quite a few more, since we are human beings and humans get scared quite a lot throughout the natural course of living. No, today I'm speaking specifically on a different kind of fear. It's the kind of fear that I think underlies all these other fears that I just mentioned. I know it's the kind of fear that Unitarian Universalists in particular hold the very most. And this fear is the fear that you seem to fear the most. It is this: the fear of mess. The fear of mess. The fear of disorder. The fear of chaos and uncertainty, and worst of all for our people, our pretty privileged Unitarian Universalist people, our worst fear is often the fear of a lack of control. When I thought about what might make a congregation fearful when their minister has just headed out on a well-deserved sabbatical, and when pledge campaign time rolls around again, and all this in a political atmosphere that is uncertain in the extreme, when I thought about what might make you fearful during those times, my mind turned to the nature of chaos. I'm finding, as I go from congregation to congregation, that the anxiety of our time is causing folks to get super concentrated and intense. Intense in the sense of being tense, too. People are like, in this day and age, I need to concentrate on what matters most and do the work that's most effective. Or in this day and age, I need to focus on my people who are hurting and need me. It's like the fuzzy boundaries of life, the fuzzy boundaries that are open and full of choices and possibilities and messiness have been sucked in, closed down. People are focused and directed. They are tense and intense. They are reacting to fear. And what they aren't much in the mood for is any kind of additional disorder. There is enough chaos, thank you very much. I want my stuff to be very, very organized because I am scared. Which is an interesting time to have a sabbatical start. Because a sabbatical time, well, sure, in part, a sabbatical helps your minister rest up so that he can continue his good work. Ministry is hard and intense, and you need that well to fill up if you're going to think about continuing to dip that bucket into it. So ministers need rest, and that's one reason for sabbatical. But the other, much more important, much more mystical reason that churches offer sabbaticals to their ministers and to themselves is because churches need deliberate chaos from time to time. Churches need mess. Even when times are already scary and uncertain, and the last thing any soul is crying out for is a rocking of the boat. Even when everything in you is saying, make it stop moving, you still need the mess that leads to creation. In fact, you need it even more. Here's the little talked about secret. Our churches deliberately introduce mess, chaos, into our systems with ministerial sabbaticals, because out of that mess comes divine inspiration and potential. Cosmic explosions led to the stardust that made everything in the universe. How did something fiery and ancient and huge and devastating lead to such concrete things like you and me and this pulpit and those pews? Well, it did. The seeds of life are born in chaos, and the sacred seeds of good church are born not in order and calm, no matter what your mom told you, but actually those seeds of good church are born in sacred chaos and mess. Sabbaticals create the congregational stardust that powers that congregation into its next divine chapter. Seeds of love and power and community and possibility get flung into the air during sabbaticals, and what you think might be unstable and shifting ground is what those seeds call fertile land, fertile tilled earth, ready for planting to grow the next big holy thing. In your fear, in your tension, you might be busy smoothing and soothing. You might be looking for ways to make things orderly and calm. You might be seeking to steady and to reassure. But what you need to do is what farmers do. The earth is being plowed up and the seeds are being scattered. This is what is happening, and this is for the good. Don't run away. Focus and work. Now you want to water and fertilize and shepherd and protect. You want to water the ground and protect the seedlings that come and make sure that they get the right amount of light and food. This is a time for recommitment because you are growing your next crop. It needs your resources and your attention. This is a time when your contribution matters. It matters more than it does in calmer times when you don't feel afraid, because this is the sort of time with the greatest potential. The UUA's stewardship consulting firm called Stewardship for Us, they recently posted a blog about congregational giving in these uncertain times. Won't people be pulling in their resources these days, the Post wondered, afraid to give given such an uncertain future? Or, the blog post wondered, won't folks be giving their money to concrete causes where the purposes are really clear, like the ACLU or Planned Parenthood? Why would people be willing to give to churches in this scary time? It's easier to see why when you remember the purpose of the tilled up ground full of seeds, when you remember the effect of the cosmic explosion spreading the stardust into infinity. If we want to see the fruit of justice, we have to plant in the ground of love. And that ground and seed needs our attention and care, our resources. If we want to see the fruit of commitment out there in the world, we have to plant in the ground of respite and sustenance and inspiration here at home. From where else would that respite and sustenance and inspiration come in this world? And that ground and those seeds need our attention and care, our resources. If we want to see the fruit of connection out there, the kind of connection that reminds us of the truth that we are one family, one human family, siblings to each other, regardless of race or origin or gender or economic blessing, if we want to see that fruit of connection growing out there, we have to plant in the ground of community here at home. The ground where you are welcome as you are and thanked for the differences that you bring, not excluded, but thanked. That ground and those seeds need our attention and care, our resources. What other ground is there to grow the crop of love and justice we want to see in the world? The things that feed us don't just appear in cellophane on the shelves of the grocery store, even though that's where I mostly see them. No, the things that feed us are grown in dirty, messy, uneven, tossed up, coarse soil that somehow was tended enough to produce just the exact thing that was needed. What an egregious error it would be if someone turned away from all that dirty turmoil of farmland, thinking it all too difficult to deal with, and just went to the store expecting the crop, expecting to be fed. Remember that once, very long ago, everywhere was a huge, deep, dark, mysterious place, like something waiting to happen. And out of that, the universe was born. And remember that even in the darkest, most opaque, most turbulent, most frightening or unwanted of times, there are seeds of the eternal, of everything that can or will be, waiting to be tended, waiting to grow into the next big, holy thing. The next big, holy thing that there's going to be. If this were an ordinary story, it would end right there. But this is no ordinary story. It keeps unfolding. Water and tend the seeds of love and joy and peace that are present here and in all times and places. Contribute to this place of justice and community so that the world we long for can come to pass. So may it be. Amen.